good afternoon. Before we begin our lecture, let us start with a prayer. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepared a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. So, class, good afternoon. Today, our subject is leadership and management. And specifically, our topic this afternoon is all about medical management. Okay? So this is your professor, attorney Alfredo L. Mayol III. I am a registered nurse. That's why there's an RN there. I am also licensed nurse in New York. So I am a USRN. I am also a real estate broker. And unfortunately, I am also a lawyer. Okay? I am not a medical doctor because, of course, you always call me doctor, doc. So, for clarification purposes, I am a lawyer, but I am a juris doctor. Okay? Doctor of the law. Okay? So, that's it. Let's begin. What is or who is a medical manager? Medical managers may work in any healthcare facility settings like a hospital, a medical school, special care facilities, or private clinic. Okay? So when you are a medical manager class, okay, yeah, the bulk of your management time is in the medical setting, okay, in a hospital or any medical institutions, even in schools, like in a medical schools, special care facilities like home for the aged, okay, or if you have your own private institution like a clinic. So they are responsible for the efficient and effective delivery of healthcare in their institution. Okay? So, what does it mean to be an effective medical manager? First is if you are a medical manager who is effective and efficient in your work, you demonstrate knowledge of organizational behavior. Okay? So when you are in an organization class, there are many members, okay? Stakeholders. There is the top management where policies are being crafted, the owners, okay? The leaders. There is the middle management, okay? That bridges the top management and the employees. The labor sector, okay? For example, here in Gulyas College of Medicine, there is a finance department, a registrar's department, an academic department, okay? An HR or human resource department. We have a legal department, okay? So, if you are an effective medical manager, you must take note of the different behavior of this department in the organization. Okay? Their operations, how they interact with each other, the interplay of the roles of these departments, and then demonstrates effective management within a business environment. Okay, of course, more often than not, organization, the end goal is to have profit, okay, profitability. So as a manager, as a medical manager, okay, you should demonstrate that you are effective in the business enterprise, the business side of the organization. Next, demonstrates the ability to prioritize tasks and manage time effectively. Of course, there are many jobs to do, many work. Time management is very important in order to accomplish certain tasks. Okay? And it is important, class, to finish tasks. Do not delay these things because it will mount. Okay? And it will overwhelm you later on. That's why you should have a deadline for each and every task. Next, develop and implement budgets for decision making. Okay, like what I said earlier, an organization is composed of many stakeholders, many departments. Okay, so allocation of your time in this department if you are the medical manager. And then more often than not, class, a corporate decision is a collegial decision. So when you say collegial, the decision making is based on the entirety, okay, of the committee of the different department. Next, implements appropriate human resource management strategies, including recruitment, allocation, and monitoring of human resources. Human resources, class, for me, is the best resources. Okay? Because it is through people that everything are operated. Everything works smoothly. So it is not your product or other raw materials or oil or data that is essential in a company, but it's people. Okay? Remember, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Okay? So, human resources is the greatest resources. Next, understands health financing models. Okay? Because you are the manager, you need to balance the, the financial aspect of the company. Another is he or she identifies and understands all interrelated processes in a systems approach to management. Okay, so different issues, different ideas. Okay, you must learn this all in order to have a certain approach in finishing or solving a problem. Next, understand the principle of allocating finite resources appropriately. Okay? So in an organization, there is no infinite resources. There is resources are more often than not limited. So as a manager, it is incumbent upon you to allocate these scarce resources. Next, understand the principle of preparing and critiquing business cases, audits, financial statements, and cost-benefit analysis. Okay? So these are the, if you are a manager class, you need to take note of this aspect because it is important in your day-to-day operation. Okay? So take note, you need to appraise yourselves of this technical stuff like audits, FS, okay, financial statements, and other business issues. Now, what is a management? Okay, what is management? The organization and coordination of the activities of a medical enterprise in order to render defined objective. So, the word itself, you manage or you coordinate or you organize activities for the company. Okay? Whether to achieve its goal or render a defined task or act. So what is an enterprise? Any original business activity. Okay? Like a certain task. Okay? An activity. What is an objective? This, with respect to medical management, objective is the healthcare goods or medical services that you need to achieve, okay, or you need to deliver. Next, what is an organization? An organization is a group of people with a particular purpose, okay? Um, uniformity of purpose, the same purpose. Next definition is that it is a social system of people to people and people to work networks in which employees have both social needs and the desire to make meaningful contributions towards the accomplishment of organizational goals. Okay? So, organization class is the collegial body, okay? The collective group of people that constitutes the company or the organization. Okay? In the perspective of management. Okay? That's the meaning of organization. So people to work networks with the laborers or employees. It is a social need, okay? A community need, a public need towards meaningful contributions in order to accomplish a certain task. So basically, that is the meaning of organization. So why is organization important? First, it brings together resources to achieve desired goals and outcomes. Okay? So for example, our school, our goal is to have a high passing rate. Okay? So we put all our resources. That's why we beautify our school. We hire competent faculties and staff in order to achieve this goal of a high percentage passing rate. Next, produce goods and services efficiently. Okay? So that's why organizations is important in order to collectively perform, to have an efficient service, to produce goods. Okay? Another is to facilitate innovation. Next is to use modern manufacturing and computer-based technology. Another, adapt to and influence changing environment. Next, create value for owners, customers, and employees. And then next, accommodate ongoing challenges of diversity, ethics, and the motivation and coordination of employees. Okay, so that's the reason why organization is important in order for the collective action of the people and its resources. Now, let's go to different organizational theories. First is the classical theory or bureaucracy. Okay, we will discuss this in depth as we move along. Next is the neoclassical theory or human relations movement. Okay. Next is the system theory. So, these are the three theories of organization. First is the classical theory. So, in the classical theory class, there are four components to any organization. First is the system of differentiated activities. Okay, there are tasks. There are different activities. Okay, so this is the classical approach. And there is an element of people. Okay, so there are tasks. A second element is the people. Third element is the cooperation towards a goal. Okay, the accomplishment of the task at hand. And then lastly, the authority. Okay, the top management, the policy makers. So these are the elements of the classical theory. The next theory is the neoclassical theory. Critique of the four structural principles of classical theory. So these are the four critiques: functional, scalar, line or staff, and then the span of control. Okay? So we will discuss this as we move along. Next is the system theory. So, in the systems theory class, there are 5 parts of organization. Okay? According to this theory, organization is composed of individuals, and then formal organization, small groups, status and roles, and then the physical setting. Okay? So, we will discuss that specifically. Now, let's differentiate classical versus the neoclassical theory. So just like what I discussed earlier, classical organization design, as you can see in this diagram, there is an authority, okay, an element of an authority. So it is a hierarchy type, okay, tall hierarchy. So narrow span of control and then close control over subordinates. So there's an element of people, and then there's an element of a task, and then the accomplishment of task, okay, as guided by the leader, okay, or the authority. In the other hand, in neoclassical organization design, people are equal. Even though there is a leader, there is no total control over the people, okay? So there is flat hierarchy. There is no hierarchy at all. Wide span of control and then loose control over subordinate. Okay? So the leader in neoclassical organization design merely supervises the people aspect. Okay? Unlike in the classical organization design, the leader controls the subordinates. Okay? Now, let's discuss the components of an open system. So, in this diagram class, so this is an open system of the management. Okay? So, there's the elements which are important are in the environment, there is matter and energy, and then there is information. So, in the matter and energy, there is input class, and then the input will transform into output. Okay, so when there is a task, there is a goal. So once there is the collective effort and knowledge is already achieved in order to accomplish the goal, then it will transform into output. Okay, so this is the diagram. So the energy matter is the collective effort aspect, and the information as matter is the knowledge aspect, in order to achieve the end goal, which is the output. And of course, feedback is very important in this manner because we will learn whether or not why there is delay in the output or why the output has not yet been achieved. Okay, feedback mechanism is important. Next is the system theory. So organizational system is composed of individuals, formal organization, small group status and role, and physical setting. All parts of the system are interactive in order to achieve coordinated goals of the system. Okay? So, in layman's term, in a systems approach class, there are already stakeholders who are present. The individuals, and then the top management, the middle management, the technical support group. Okay? So the status and roles are already defined and the setting, the place of work is already there. There is already a system in place. And then all parts in the system are interactive in order to achieve coordinated goals of the system. So by virtue of this interplay class, so there is output, okay? There is accomplishment of the task. Now, let's move on to the general systems theory. So laws that govern biological open systems can be applied to systems of any form, okay? So the word itself, it is self-explanatory, general systems theory. So the laws can be applied to any or can be applied generally to any systems. So what are the open systems theory? Parts that make up the systems are interrelated. First is health of overall system is contingent on the subsystem functioning. Okay, so this means class that at the outset or at the top, okay, its overall system, if it is healthy, it is because of the subcategory or the subsystem which is functioning perfectly. Okay? Next, open systems import and export material from and to the environment. Okay, so there is an interplay of the import and export materials. Okay, and then permeable boundaries, or when you say permeable, materials can pass through. Okay, so we will have an illustration later with regards to open system theory so that you can understand better. So relative openness, system can regulate permeability. Second principle of thermodynamic or entropy must increase to a maximum. Negentropy increases growth and a state of survival. Okay, so these are the principle of thermodynamics is used in this system. Okay, so because when there is entropy, so there is increase to a maximum. Okay, however, when there is negentropy, there is increased growth and the state of survival. So these terms are being used in this system class. Okay. Next term used in the system is synergy. Extra energy causes non-summativity. Whole is greater than the sum of its part. Okay. So the principle of synergy contemplates that the group, the organization as a whole must work harmoniously in order to achieve a certain task because the whole is greater than the sum of its part. Okay? And then another approach is the equifinality versus one best way. So when you say equifinality, it is a balancing act on what approach you will use in order to achieve a certain goal or a certain task. Or there is one way to do it, okay, or the one best way to do it. So as a manager, as a medical manager, it's incumbent upon you to really increase your skills, knowledge, and attitude, okay, in order to address matters such as this one. Now, let's go to the illustration of an open system and its subsystem. Okay, so this is the environment. So first stage is the raw materials, the people, the information resources, and then the financial resources. So you place this as an input and then process it, transform it, and then there is the output, and then the products and services which are efficient in achieving the goal. Okay, so this process class will be smooth if the subsystems are functioning well, okay, as discussed earlier. So as the raw materials is being utilized, the subsystem is boundary spanning. So you will not limit the materials or the people or the information to a certain place. Okay, you should span the boundary. Okay, because that is the input. These aspects, okay, these elements, people, material, information, financials, and then once it is in place, it is processed and transformed. Okay, so under this transformation process, production, maintenance, adaptation, and management should be functioning well in order for this transformation process to go smoothly. And once again, if there is output, boundary spanning again. Okay, do not limit the output. Okay, apply it generally, apply it to everything. Expand your boundary so that the final output, the product and services, will accomplish the task or the goal. Next, characteristics of an organization as a system. Okay? So in order for an organization to be seamless, to be smooth class, communication first is the role of communication. Communication is the key. Okay? You should have an open communication to all stakeholders, especially when you are the middle manager. Okay? Because you are the bridge between the top management and the other departments, the technical support group, and employees. Okay, the core group. Next is the system, subsystems, and super systems. Okay, so these are the elements in place, whether it's people, whether it's information, depending on the company, whether it's finance, okay, human relations, and the subsystems underneath it, okay, that supports the elements in place. And then the types of system, okay, depending on the company, the boundaries or the parameters of the said systems, and whether it is a closed system or specific, or that system is defined. Okay, for example, in the Gulyas College of Medicine, we are a medical school. So our system is somewhat of a closed system, and the boundaries And the types of system or the subsystems are already defined because of our structure, organizational structure. Okay, so as a school, we have the academics, we have the registrars department, we have the finance department, we have for the employees, we have the HR, the human relations. Okay. So what are the 5 basic parts of an organization? So like what I discussed earlier, there is the top management, the policymakers, the owners, and then the middle management that bridges the top management to the other departments, the technical core, the bulk of the staff, okay, and then the technical support. So these are the other and administrative support. These are the other department which has equal footing to middle management. Okay, for example, finance officer, HR officer, academics officer, and so on and so forth. So the organization class is a combination of culture, environment, goals and strategy, size, and technology in order to be efficient and effective. Okay? Likewise, an organization, there must be formalization because being an organization class, being a company, there are formalities involved. Okay? Whether legal, or in order to create the juridical personality of the company, okay? And another is the specialization, whether you are an insurance company, you are a school, okay, or whatever company, a hospital. Next, the hierarchy of authority, the corporate structure of the company, the CEO, the COO, okay, and then the other important positions and roles. Next is the centralization. Okay, this is where the middle management will have a centralized approach as because they are considered the bridge class to the top management. And then of course professionalism. Okay, like in our school, the teachers, the faculties, and other employees, they are considered professional. And then personnel ratio. Okay, for example, in our school there is a faculty student ratio. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so class, thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? Questions or clarifications? If there is none, I will end the recording. Okay. Thank you, class. Bye.
Thank you, sir.